Many teenage girls dream of meeting their true love, eloping and getting married. Caroline Crouch was no different. At 15 years old, while still in high school, she was charmed by a 27-year-old financially well-off pilot who would fly his helicopter over her school. They soon eloped and married. However, what seemed like a perfect love story quickly turned into a shocking murder that deceived the world. On Tuesday, May 11, 2021, at 4:30 a.m., Haralambos Anagnostopoulos, also known as Babis, was abruptly awakened in his rented two-story maisonette in Glyka Nera, a suburb on the outskirts of Athens, Greece. Three masked men, armed and hooded, overpowered Babis, tying him up and blindfolding him with duct tape. They then turned their attention to his 19-year-old wife, Caroline Crouch, while their 11-month-old daughter, who was sleeping nearby, was awakened by the chaos. The intruders, speaking in Greek and Albanian accents, demanded to know where the money was. Caroline had no idea that this robbery would soon lead to her death. Caroline Crouch was born on July 12, 2001, in Athens to retired engineer David Crouch and Susan Della Costa. At the age of 8, her family moved to the island of Alonissos, where she grew up. Caroline loved her beachside life, showing a passion for scuba diving and swimming from a young age. She met Babis during a Good Friday parade in 2017 when she was only 15. 3 years later, on July 15, 2019, they got married in Portugal. Just days before her death, Caroline and Babis had purchased a plot of land with plans to build their dream home. Caroline had received 50,000 euros as a gift from her parents for the land, and the couple had another 10,000 euros stashed away in their home for construction. At that time, due to the financial crisis in Greece, people preferred to keep cash at home rather than in banks. Caroline and Babis likely shared this sentiment, never anticipating the tragedy that would unfold on May 11th. As the intruders threatened the family, Babis, in a desperate bid to save his family, revealed the location of the hidden money inside a Monopoly game box. The intruders took the cash but didn't leave immediately. They continued ransacking the house, taking jewelry and other valuables. Despite giving up everything they had, Babis and Caroline's pleas for their lives went unanswered. Babis, still blindfolded and restrained, heard his wife's screams and his daughter's cries as the intruders terrorized them. He struggled against his bonds, but kept losing consciousness due to a rope around his neck. When he finally regained full consciousness, the intruders were gone, and all he could hear were his daughter's cries. Somehow he managed to reach his phone with his nose and called emergency services, muffled by the duct tape around his mouth. First responders arrived around 6 a.m., finding a scene of horror. The house was ransacked, the Monopoly box emptied, and a security camera ripped from the wall with its memory card missing. Most disturbingly, the family's 7-month-old husky puppy was found hanged by her leash. Babis was discovered tied up on the bedroom floor, while Caroline lay lifeless on the bed beside their crying daughter. The first responders quickly realized Caroline was dead, and Babis went into shock upon being freed and seeing his wife's body. Police immediately began questioning him about the incident. Based on Babis's account, the police believed that 3 men had entered the house while a 4th kept watch outside. They surmised that the intruders had broken in through a small basement window, then proceeded to kill the family dog and loot the house. Before leaving, they smothered Caroline with a pillow, a process that likely took around 6 minutes as she fought back, evidenced by bruises on her body. Despite the damage to the house, there was little evidence left behind, except for a hood that might have fallen off one of the intruders during Babis's struggle. Based on Babis's descriptions, a sketch of one suspect, a tall, overweight, dark-skinned man, was created. The intruders had stolen 10,000 euros in cash and jewelry worth 20,000 euros. As the investigation unfolded, doubts began to arise. If robbery was the motive, why did they need to kill Caroline? Speculations included theories such as the intruders being high on drugs or that Caroline knew them. Caroline was also a black belt in kickboxing, and her resistance might have led to her being silenced. The police were convinced the attack was premeditated, suspecting the intruders had inside information about the hidden money. They interviewed people close to Babis and Caroline and reviewed nearby security footage, identifying a dark vehicle and a motorcycle in the area around the time of the murder. Caroline was laid to rest 3 days after the murder on the island of Alonissos, where she had grown up. Babis, speaking at her funeral, expressed his heartbreak, saying that their daughter would grow up never knowing her mother. Meanwhile, a 36-year-old Georgian national, Georgi Haralambashvili, was stopped at a routine checkpoint near the Bulgarian border. Found with a fake passport, Haralambashvili was identified as a violent criminal wanted for several break-ins in the Athens area, including some near Babis and Caroline's home. Given his history and resemblance to the suspect's sketch, police were confident they had found one of the intruders. However, after 4 days of intense interrogation, Haralambashvili was cleared of any involvement in Caroline's murder. The investigation continued, with police focusing on a local Albanian organized crime group. They narrowed their list of suspects but still struggled to find concrete evidence. As time passed, public frustration grew, especially as racially motivated crimes increased. The lack of progress in solving the case left Athens residents in fear, and a large reward for information went unclaimed. A breakthrough came 37 days after Caroline's murder, during a memorial service on Alonissos. Detectives approached Babis discreetly, asking him to accompany them to Athens, where they presented him with new evidence. The investigation had uncovered several inconsistencies in Babis's story. For instance, the small basement window supposedly used by the intruders was too small for the suspect described by Babis. Neighbors reported hearing only the puppy's cries that night, not the sounds of a struggle. The security camera's memory card had been removed hours before the intruders supposedly arrived. Additionally, data from Caroline's smartwatch and Babis's phone revealed timelines that contradicted Babis's account of events. Crucially, Caroline had been planning to leave Babis, as evidenced by her attempts to book a hotel for herself and their daughter, and by text messages she had sent to a friend on the night of her murder. Babis had charmed Caroline when she was just 15, but over time he became controlling and manipulative, isolating her from her family and taking control of her finances. Caroline's diary entries revealed her doubts about their relationship and her struggles to leave him, especially after becoming pregnant. Confronted with the overwhelming evidence, Babis eventually confessed to murdering Caroline. He claimed that they had argued about their daughter, and in a fit of rage, he strangled Caroline with a pillow. He then staged the scene to look like a robbery gone wrong, even killing their dog to make it more convincing. In May 2022, Babis was found guilty of premeditated murder, obstruction of justice, lying to authorities, and animal abuse.